Hi everyone, I'm Alan from Allan Gray, and I'm joined by my colleague Ron, and we're part of the data science team at Allan Gray. Allan Gray is the largest private asset manager in South Africa, and our goal is to create long-term wealth for our clients. The data science team was formed in late 2018, and we've been experimenting using data science, machine learning, and advanced statistical methods to solve business problems. Today, we will share with you some of our learnings and how to unlock business value using data science in the financial services industry. Before we begin, we'd just like to touch on why we thought it would be valuable to share our experience. In 2019, VentureBeats reported that 87% of data science projects never make it into production. And the reasons for failure vary from companies adopting data science due to hype, to forcing machine solutions on problems that aren't required, and wishful thinking that data science is a silver bullet for all your data-related problems. Talking about hype, Ron will now take us through the Gartner hype cycle for 2019 for emerging technologies.
Hi everyone, Ronald here. As you can see from this graph, there is a lot of technology sort of on the innovation trigger side, with only a handful of technologies actually making it over the peak of inflated expectations. The same can be said about a lot of the AI or machine learning type technologies, including transfer learning, generative adversarial networks, adaptive AI, and a bunch of others. When looking closer at sort of AI and machine learning type technologies, only a handful of them have actually made it to the plateau of productivity where they could actually be used for business type cases. It's quite good to see that natural language processing and some of the other technologies have actually made it over the peak. And we've actually seen this as a team. We're starting to use natural language processing a lot more for some of the projects that we're involved in. So yes, just to reiterate again, there's a lot of hype when it comes to some of these emerging technologies. There's very high expectations, and only a handful of them actually make it through this peak of inflated expectations, through the trough of disillusionment, and over the slope of enlightenment into the plateau of productivity. Just to summarize, we've also, as a team, seen that the most common mistake with the AI is that it focuses too much on automation rather than augmentation of human decision-making and interaction. We'll touch on this a little bit more throughout the presentation, but I think a lot of the time there's an expectation that AI and machine learning can just solve any type of business problem. It's a black box, and whatever you put in, it just gives sort of like a golden answer out on the other side. But we've actually focused a little bit more on using it for augmentation, keeping the human in the loop, and augmenting processes and improving efficiency and operational standards within the business.
Cool. So just to give you a bit of overview of Allan Gray. As I said previously, we're the largest private asset manager in South Africa, which is our asset management side is split into the retail and institutional aspects. And the retail and institutional wings service different types of clients, with the retail managing direct and intermediated. What we mean by intermediate is that we don't offer advice directly, so we have independent financial advisors that we service to service underlying clients. The institutional side manages institution money such as pension funds, medical aids, and insurance companies, with the investment team responsible for making investment decisions. We also have a product development and distribution team. So the product development team ensures that we offer the right investment products for our retail client base. They also make sure that our products keep up with legislative requirements. And as I said before, since we aren't in the business of giving financial advice, some of our clients use independent financial advisors, which are serviced by our distribution teams and business development managers. They have a strong focus on making sure that they keep their client base up to date about market-related trends. We also do a bit of behavioral analysis to make sure that we can service different customers appropriately. And more on this later, but we have also found that it's difficult to track this, and oftentimes we don't want to introduce human bias when we create these groups. The next part of our business is information technology. IT is the backbone of the business, and it integrates various systems together to ensure that our clients are able to interact and transact smoothly with us and their investments. There's various teams looking at different areas and different product offerings. Many of them are working on web technologies to enable digital reporting and transacting. Others maintain client relationship management systems and general support for the business. At the heart of our business is great client service. So we have two departments dedicated to this, the Client Servicing Center and the Operations Department. The Client Service Center takes client calls and answers any queries via our multiple channels that we provide for our clients. The CSC staff are highly trained and can assist with queries ranging from basic investor reports to advanced product-related questions. IT and client servicing and operations make up more than 50% of our business. So it goes to show that we are very much in the client experience and client servicing space. And we want to provide the best service that we can using technology and hiring the best people. Data science, our team adds value specifically is in these three areas. We worked with product development teams to look at product selection, the distribution team to determine how to service different clients in different ways and provide better service overall. Data science actually sits in information technology, and because we use a lot of the technologies that we want to integrate with our systems, this is the perfect place for us to be in. The other projects that we worked on also in the client servicing space, we try to predict specific client behavior, as well as the operations space where we increase operational efficiency using our methods. Ron will take you through the next slide.
Now bringing it back to our team. What makes a successful data science team? We believe, and it's also widely reported in literature, that it takes roughly 3 categories of ingredients: business or domain knowledge, computer science, mathematics, and statistics. Business and domain knowledge obviously gives the data science team context, ways to apply specific data science technologies, and how they would essentially integrate with the business. Computer science, I mean, you essentially have to be a programmer to implement some of these technologies into the existing IT infrastructure, to understand the data processes and pipelines, etc. Mathematics and statistics, without that, I don't think you'd have much of an understanding of the data and an understanding of the machine learning algorithms. So these are essentially key ingredients. And when these ingredients come together, we believe you could be successful as a data science team. So just looking at maths and stats with business knowledge, these overarching areas essentially form research type problems for us. And maths and stats and computer science essentially forms more machine learning type problems, where data processing is essentially the combination of business and domain knowledge and computer science. When you start to combine all of these together, as you can see in the sort of Venn diagram, that sort of golden area is where data science projects essentially thrive. So looking at our team, you can see from our team that it's not a very big team. We had 4 members in our team. Miriam sadly left to go back to Joburg. But the 3 of us essentially head up the data science team. We're a cross-functional, light and nimble team that has competencies in various areas of the business. Our domain owner, Tristan, he's been at Allan Gray the longest out of all of us. He has the best understanding of the business, the processes, the infrastructure, etc. So he essentially sets the project roadmap for us. It's important to have a person like this that liaises with the business sort of directly, sets those deliverables and goals, and sort of meets with the stakeholders regularly to ensure that all the requirements are met. Alan, my colleague, he's our tech lead. He's essentially competent in all 3 of these areas. Although he specializes mainly in sort of the computer science area, and this is mainly just due to a human resource constraints. We only have 3 people in the team, and we try and focus on the areas of expertise on a sort of individual or person-to-person basis. Myself, I'm more of the specialist or analyst. Although I do have some sort of experience in the computer science, I focus a little bit more on actually looking at the data, fine-combing things, and coming up with sort of ways of which machine learning algorithms would best suit a particular problem and solve a business requirement.
Moving on to the tech stack, so just to give you a bit of an overview of what we use as a team. So Allan Gray specifically is quite open. We use a lot of open source technologies to keep up with the latest trends. We have our own Kubernetes cluster, so we can deploy any sort of technologies in containers. But for specifically for the data science team, we've opted for Python and Python-based frameworks and libraries such as Django, Pandas, Jupyter, Scikit-learn, etc. We're also slowly adopting cloud services as we migrate our infrastructure to the cloud.
One thing that we noticed while sort of forming the data science team quite formally was that there was a misunderstanding between what data science can do for the business and what it actually is. And to explain the sort of value behind data science and what it could mean for the business, we found that it's important to actually sit with the senior management or exco in the business and explain to them on a high level what machine learning, what AI and sort of data science technologies are. And a simple way for us to do this was by introducing what we coined a machine learning toolbox. And from this, you could see that there are multiple layers or multiple areas of machine learning technology. The two main categories that we focus on are unsupervised learning and supervised learning. We won't go into too much detail about what the differences are, but on a high level, unsupervised learning essentially has unlabeled data where you're trying to find sort of some patterns in your data and some structure. Supervised learning is the opposite. You've got sort of labeled data that you could use to train further machine learning models to make a mathematical mapping or representation. Expanding out on this, the other four areas that we predominantly focus on as a team are clustering type questions, grouping clients, for example, or sort of creating more intelligent profiles of other areas, dimensionality reduction, where we're essentially trying to find illicit features and make sense out of high level, high detailed, high dimensional data. Classification, where you try to sort of like group data based on like A or B. Then regression, that's also quite self-explanatory, where you just try and map out some sort of mathematical relationship to the data. For dimensionality reduction, as mentioned, we use that mainly for like big data visualization, important measurements, feature elicitation, and structure discovery. Clustering, we do sort of hypothesis validation. We've used it for roadshow, topic modeling, targeted commentary, investor evolution insights. When it comes to classification, one of our first projects was actually to implement a document classifier where we, for example, predict form A or form B, or taking it to a business sense, like maybe a withdrawal form or another type of transaction form. We've also done sort of some fraud or risk analytics where we try and actually identify fraudsters. We've done sort of client retention models and interaction likelihood estimation. For regression, we've looked at process optimization, actually looking at the ops area and seeing where we can iron out some of the creases within the business. We've also looked at time series forecasting for various areas in the business, which also includes sort of work coordination on a particular day. It's important for ops to know, for example, how many people they need to have at hand to process certain types of jobs or tasks. We also use regression to come up with sort of new insights in the business. And we'll touch on some of the projects in greater detail just now and demonstrate how we've actually unlocked some value for the business using what we call our machine learning toolbox. So in a nutshell, this has really helped us to engage with stakeholders and senior management and to give a high level overview of what we are capable of as a team using data science technology.
Cool. So before we begin talking about what we've done and our experiences, I'm going to just go through the AI maturity model that Gartner came up with. It basically talks about the different levels as to where you are in your AI journey. So stage one is often where most projects fail, as hype often overshadows reality. This is where organizations become aware of possibilities with AI, but aren't sure which are realistic and can add value. Stage two is early experimentation. This is where they're using AI to experiment, and an important keyword here is experimentation, as many projects may not succeed or bear fruits. Forcing project success can be fatal to experimentation, and thus definitions of success needs to rather focus on learnings rather than specific output. Stage three is when AI techniques are deployed into production, techniques and models, and they are used to optimize specific workflows or products. At stage four, AI has become part of almost all your digital processes at your organization can be used to unlock new business models, and this can prove to provide a competitive edge in your space. Stage 5 is when AI has become an essential part of how you do business and crucial to everyday operations. And that's why they called it part of the business DNA. So I'm going to go through the timeline of our team and how we started and some of our experience. So just to give you a bit of history, our team started in late 2018, but prior to this, the impetus for the business starting the data science team was there was a data scientist and architect that was experimenting with some of the stuff, and he created some projects that helped demonstrate the capability. So one of the first experimental projects was a business development manager geolocator. This helped the business development managers find and locate new business or advisors. And this tool incorporates some sort of customer profiling as well as segmentation to help BDMs locate appropriate new clients. So this, brought a bit of awareness of what using different types of data can do for the organization. During this time, another experimental project demonstrated capability of machine learning to identify anomalous and potentially suspicious transactions on our platform. This was far more advanced than what was existing rule-based approaches that were being used, and this allowed stakeholders to understand and learn about the potential of utilizing these advanced methods and how it could streamline and enhance the fraud detection process. Another area of a business that benefited from the first two levels was the strategic market team. This team focused on creating and building new customer segments for our business. And one area the data science helped was to identify clients and potential clients that fit specific customer segments. We use machine learning models to derive different segments to reduce bias that could be introduced by handcrafted clusters. After we started formally as a team, we were tasked with building a document classification. Classification model. So basically, we as a business, we receive thousands of emails every month, and currently these emails and documents are sorted by humans, and we wanted to see if we can use machine learning to determine whether a document was an identification document or a utility bill or an instruction form that we send out. So this was quite a learning experience for us because we started off using machine learning method. We started with a convolutional neural nets to determine to train a model that determined which document was what. And only later down the line, we found that this technique was limited in the sense that if new documents came in, a completely new type of unseen document came in, it would be limited to predicting it as one of the previously seen documents, since it's a frequentist model. So we actually scrapped the machine learning technique, and we went for a more traditional OCR-based technique. From this work, we were also able to break out some of the technology into a non-data science task, and we built an interface for our operations and client services center team to manage documents that we receive, which allowed them to crop and split and edit documents that we receive. In 2019, we moved on to the next tool, which Ron will talk more about.
Yeah, so 2018 and sort of prior to that was really the formative stages of our team, where we created sort of awareness that Alan touched on, and we started to actively actually contribute to data science related projects within the business. In 2019, our team became a lot more operational in our focus, where the biggest tool that we developed to date is this IFA analytics tool, Independent Financial Advisor Analytics tool. Allan Gray as a business, we've got hundreds of thousands of clients. A lot of those clients are sort of serviced by advisors, and we also have thousands of advisors. So it's difficult for us to track sort of that relationship that we have with advisors and advisors with their clients. So this Independent Financial Advisor Analytics tool essentially tries to bridge the gap between the business development managers and the independent financial advisors by creating some sort of profile that we can track over time, and to just give us better, more enhanced insights of how we should service certain advisors. service them in sort of a better way, understanding sort of what types of clients they have. Just so that at the end of the day, our service is a lot more efficient, a lot more streamlined for the individual advisors. And traditionally, a lot of the servicing of financial advisors focuses a lot more on advisors have the biggest flows, the biggest assets under management. This tool essentially throws that out of the window and focuses on the advisor as an individual. So for this tool, we use a lot of like machine learning sort of models in the background, and we service a lot of visual insights through a web-based app that these business development managers can actually use before meetings to actually go through some of the insights. Or we send out intuitive insights to the business development managers without them even going onto the app to say that certain advisors are deviating sort of from what they have normally done. And again, this all comes down to actually servicing better and understanding our client base and not creating some sort of bias of just focusing on the advisors with the biggest assets under management and the largest flows. Another sort of thing we focused on in 2019 was this independent financial advisor journey insights. A lot of our business, or a lot of the business in the financial services space or asset management space has actually moved to models where asset managers are starting to sort of blend funds together to create these models. And for us, it was just important to help the product development team plan strategically in advance to see how many people have adopted these models on our platform and if they are actually starting to use different kinds of funds. So there was a very big deep dive into some data analytics there, and there were some very interesting insights from that. Another area we started to touch on after all of this awareness and sort of active contribution came about as a team was in the client experience space. As Allan's mentioned in some of the earlier slides, client servicing is really the heart of business. We have a designated sort of client servicing center or team who sort of manually answer questions to clients. We pride ourselves in actually answering the phone within a couple of seconds and have as much data as possible at hand. So for us to improve those levels of service, we thought that it would be a great idea to actually try and predict which clients would call within a certain time period and about what they would call, so we can have as much information at hand. For example, if a client withdraws and they typically call in after they make a withdrawal, we can maybe even identify a group of clients that that's very true for. So that's kind of thinking around that. So it's sort of like a predictive model, but also an augmentative model where the consultants could then access information that we push to them. In 2020, it's really become systemic. All of this operational work that we've done, models we've implemented, projects we've sort of delivered on, are really changing the way that the business thinks about things. It's really become a very important part of who we are at Allan Gray. So much so that the compliance team has asked us to develop an anti-money laundering model for them. The aim of this model is obviously to catch anti-money or money launderers, people that try and sort of wash money through the system or wash dirty money through the system, in fact. And what we had aimed to do here was to eliminate human bias from the traditional way that they actually try and find these money launderers by using machine learning. We won't mention the specifics there because I think that's quite sensitive sort of information. But the power of machine learning here is really to go through millions and millions of examples and identify only the handful of examples that are anomalous or outlying. And then furthermore, reports on why they are actually sort of outlying or anomalous. We've also looked more at sort of investor insights, what we can actually report about certain investors and enhance the experience for them on sort of a personalized level. This could tie back into sort of the online account that they have or the online portal. And yeah, another thing that product development wants us to look at is profitability, looking at sort of strategic areas in the business where we can save costs, or maybe look at some sort of strategic planning for future product offerings where we could just ensure that the business remains profitable during these times.
So I think we just want to wrap up with some of the learnings that we've made that allowed us to navigate through all the challenges that we've had over the years. I think one of the main things that we did was we made sure that we started small and we tackled projects that were quite specific and ensured that the outcome was measurable. This allows you to focus on what you're trying to achieve, especially if you want to use a new technology to solve that problem. Secondly, we also wanted to start simple. So we started with the most basic models to demonstrate capability and ensure that it was measurable and achievable. And from there, we built up and made it more complex. In some cases, we had to combine multiple models to create an ensemble to increase efficiency.
Yeah, and moving on from that, I think oftentimes literature focuses on sort of iterating quickly, and that is definitely very true. But we've kind of summarized it as learning fast rather, or failing quickly. It was very important for us to learn from our mistakes, but also through that to get up, to be resilient, and to iterate quite quickly. We've had a lot of failures as a team, but those failures have actually just helped us to sort of plan ahead and make sure that we don't do the same thing again. Another thing, and we've mentioned this in great detail already, is to focus on augmentation rather than automation. A lot of the times in literature, there's so much said about automation and AI sort of being this black box. But we really believe and firmly believe that we should shed light on the black box that is machine learning and actually focus a little bit more on bringing the human in the loop so that they're comfortable with the data science and machine learning solutions that you provide them.
Another area that we felt that was quite important was educating and sharing our experience, as well as educating people on how these techniques work. We actually spent a lot of time doing presentations, upskilling, and sharing with our stakeholders as to how some of these technologies work to inspire them, because oftentimes they're more domain experts than we can be, since they're the experts in their space. By explaining and educating just on a high level, like that toolbox that Ron demonstrated earlier, can actually inspire them to give us a few problems that are relevant to our space. And also, it's also very important through the education piece is while you are working with a specific problem or a specific team, it's very important to demonstrate results and progress along the way and keep them engaged, especially since that these ideas are so new and unrelatable. Making them relatable in their space can help these methods become more valuable to them as they can see how it can help their area.
Getting back to, I think, what the philosophy is at Allan Gray as well, is thinking long term. We're in the long term investment sort of business. And the exact same thing can be said about our team. Although we work on a lot of short term quick wins, those quick wins actually lead up to sort of a long term goal or vision. If you think about data, you have to think about what kind of data you want to collect now for maybe use in 5 years' time. But it's all part of a long plan and strategy that leads into something valuable in the end. And the best time to start with a lot of these things is now. As you've seen from our team, we only have 3 members in the team currently. We are on the lookout for a 4th in due course, but we pride ourselves as quite a nimble and cross-functional team. Nimble in the sense that we are small, obviously, but we can also stretch ourselves in different areas by being cross-functional. We've worked across the various levels and departments in the business, and we constantly have to switch between contexts for various problems. And this, I think, is very important. I think a lot of companies invest a lot in a data science team where their focus is one thing, like maybe just sort of risk and compliance. But by actually having a conversation with various departments in the business, a lot of people actually upskill in those areas. And over time, I think data science is less of a team and actually more of a capability within a company.
Thank you very much from our side and Ron. Yeah, I think we open the floor to any questions.